There we go. Boom! Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. And we are live. If you're at the Rock Fan, you already heard me say that. But here's the deal. I was scrolling through my Facebook feed, and all of a sudden I saw somebody, I don't even know who it was, not post the SPARS document, but basically saying, look up this SPARS document. It came out in March 2020. It is cited from documents as early as, I believe, 2003. And it is heavily concerned with social media and narrative control when it comes to pandemics, especially this one. It is extremely concerned with the black community, the Muslim community, and them basically going against the medical countermeasures. It has a lot of similarities to the COVID-19 84 scenario, but it also has differences. And I think that it's really important to talk about this because, in essence, it lets you know that even if you use factual information, they're coming for you. Like, for instance, one of the scenarios they put out is this person called Epigirl that is able to attract a lot of attention by pulling legitimate data and putting it into a new type of social media network, which then basically challenges the government narrative. And at no point do they ever seem concerned on whether the information that is being presented is valid. It's always misinformation and doubt. Well, wait a minute. If you're putting doubt into somebody's mind based on factual information, that's not misinformation. And we've already seen, obviously with this channel, with the 2 strikes, that quote-unquote medical misinformation is now a broad spectrum of things. The other thing is the timing of this. It's Johns Hopkins working with others. So we're going to go a deep dive. We haven't done a document deep dive in quite some time. Probably going to spend about a half an hour on it. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you because in of itself, it seems to be part of a larger report. And at the bottom is citing many of these scenarios and other reports that they're talking about. So thumbs it up, subscribe, share. Remember to Rockfin. I want to remind everybody, if we do go down, everything on YouTube has now been back to Odyssey. I want to thank Odyssey for that. I think that's important. If you're not subscribed yet, make sure you are. Make sure you're also checking out all the documentary films for free. I've been in this for the long game. For as long as they're citing these documents in this SPARS pandemic 2025 to 2028. Okay? And again, there's a lot of important things there. But the best way to support me is by going over, making at least the free Rockfin account. And then if you make a premium account and you endorse Jason Burmis, you get everybody's premium content. It's like a Netflix for creators. Okay. So the document you see behind me is easily looked up, and it's really got a lot of similar scenarios to what we're seeing. We're seeing a scenario in which a flu-like virus, which is mild in the vast majority of people, has now infected the world. Never in this document are lockdowns talked about. Instead, it's more of a way to promote the boop boop using social media, create a scenario in which climate change is again to blame, because at the end of the day, they're going to use that as the excuse for rolling lockdowns, right? Protecting the manufacturers of the boop boop and controlling the narrative, okay? So this is why I'm going over this, because these people are unabashed when they tell you this stuff. So it's also out of Texas State University in San Marcos, Columbia University, and of course, Johns Hopkins. The Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So again, they basically go down, tell you all these different scenarios, and we're going to read a lot of them, and we're going to show you different models and what models they picked. And they picked a model of division, by the way. And we'll read specifically what it is, but it's kind of radical that they would even say this, because this, again, is something that we're talking about. You know, they were taking data from before the quote-unquote Trump presidency. And, you know, this division, you know, has been sowed in us. That clip of Charles Barkley talking about the division that's been sowed on us by politicians on both sides trying to control us. Those politicians are mid-tier. They're representatives of a predator class. And I like Barkley. I've done videos on the past on Barkley. I may do a video on that one, but, you know, so many people have already covered it, and obviously it's gone viral. So, you know, I think we can spend a little more time doing something like this. So MCM, that's medical countermeasures. Now, they talk about drugs, devices, and biologics. Example, boop-boops, okay? Often play critical roles in curtailing the impacts of natural disease outbreaks, as well as chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear incidents. So, here's the deal. Number one, they admit that any of these things could be caused by things outside of nature. But in this scenario, it's all going to be about nature. It's all going to be about climate change, okay? It is not uncommon for members of the public, however, to misuse or hesitate to take recommended MCM. The other thing that they don't talk about in this, obviously, is that they would suppress other drugs that were repurposed that actually worked. Because, again, they always have to pose themselves as the saviors, all right? Like as if, while they tell you what they're doing. Okay. New and unfamiliar technology and accelerated regulatory approval process or discordant expert views may heighten perceived risks of MCM, leading to public aversion to the countermeasures and or diminished public trust in MCM regulators and recommenders. Okay? So again, you see 2005, 2016, 2011. They're basically saying big pharma and government aren't trusted anymore. What do we do about it? In other cases, strong feelings of vulnerability in an emergency situation may prompt persons to demand unnecessary MCM, protest their lack of access to MCM with limited availability. Again, creating the shortage scenarios that they're trying to do in the media, right? Equity type things, which are also discussed in this. Okay? Certain social groups may have limited access, to MCM because some institutions are still in the process of learning how culture, race, language, and citizenship status produce barriers to health information sharing. Okay? To mitigate all these issues and ensure proper and timely use of MCM, good communication is key. Right? And they talk about YouTube videos on here as well. And basically that they can't have this type of misinformation. They talk about these dilemmas, okay? And I would encourage everybody to read this, by the way. It says it's 32 pages, but like 8 of those are, you can get this done in like an hour, hour and a half. 8 of those are citations at the end. All right? So they, of course, are going with the CDC the whole time. They talk about giving, again, immunity to these boop companies, all right? And, how there'll be an outcry from the public eventually from side effects, but they'll just increase, they'll increase the funds to pay them off. This is an incredible document, okay? So let's just keep going on here. Leveraging the same didactic qualities as retrospective cases, the project team subsequently developed a fictionalized prospective scenario. And it's SPARS. It's in the near future, 2025 to 2028. Okay? And by the way, I want to thank everybody for tipping over there. Vicky, thank you so much. And Lonnie, thank you so much. Can't tip on YouTube. We all know why. So a scenario is an analytically coherent and imaginatively engaging story about a possible future state. And by the way, they also in this admit that they work their way back for the story. In other words, they already came up with the solution that they wanted and worked its way back. It's so important to understand this, okay? So these are the types of simulations that they run, and they're always promoting global governance. The UN scenario would be the best one for them. Okay, and you notice that they want to mentally rehearse the responses. All right, so let's continue down here. Let's see. Again, CDC, WHO, challenges. You'll see. Let's see. There's FEMA as well. Drills, functional exercises, field exercises. They're constantly running these tabletop exercises. Why? Because they know that this is about control. Okay? And they're going to take advantage of any crisis, real or manufactured. And they want their narrative in there. Okay? Thumbs this video up, by the way. Like the previously mentioned earthquake and bioterrorism scenarios, right? So this isn't bioterrorism. This isn't a natural event, although later on they do talk about power outages. The SPARS scenario is meant to prepare risk and crisis communicators for future emergencies, and in particular, the complex conditions that rapidly evolving ICT. They even talk about how social media, the printable cloth, that people would loop videos on their t-shirts and backpacks to try to warn others. Including social media are now generically around medicine, public health generally, and MCM specifically. So, including text, illustrations, photo, audio, videos, and diagrams communicated through blog posts, instant messages, video chats, and social network platforms is now widespread and often used for health-related activities. Among members of the public, a 2010 survey by the Pew Research Center, for instance, showed that 8 in 10 of internet users look online for health information. And again, a lot of this is dated stuff, but they just put this out in 2020. Okay? Right as the lockdowns were rolling in. Basically, they say that its reach provides the broadest possible population, the fastest, easiest, and the least expensive manner, a variety of purposes. Okay? For health officials. But guess what? That's not great because these people get too much information. Okay? They get too much information. Social media in particular has provided a mechanism for laypersons to readily share their health-related experiential knowledge with others, thus dislodging the centrality of health professionals' authoritative knowledge in people's decision-making and behavior. In other words, they can tell people what happened to them. But it can also be used to spread false information. They, for example, found that 32% of anti-vaccine websites surveyed included pictures of menacing needles. So again, they don't take on any of the factual stuff that these websites present. They say they just have a picture of a menacing needle. And 23% had pictures of children reported to have been harmed or killed by boop boops. Was it factual or not? As parents come across these images and their associated stories, this can lead parents to place greater emphasis on personal and emotional experiences rather than scientific evidence. You haven't challenged the scientific evidence. You don't try to. Okay? Do you get it? Referred to as a false consensus bias in the social psychology literature, parents may then hesitate to vaccinate or reject vaccines for their children altogether. That's what they're really worried about in this whole thing. Now think about that. We're propagandized constantly, and they say menacing needles or pictures of children that may have actually, been killed or died. They don't challenge whether that happened. They just say they shouldn't be able to use pictures, essentially. What is particularly challenging in regard to social media is that such images and negative stories tend to have a greater impact than facts, and positive images Okay, and this is old YouTube videos, right? They said the majority of 153 identified videos, we're talking about, guys, there's 153,000. Think about how many they've already taken down now. Only 32% were negative towards the V word. That's old news. That's 14 years ago, studies. Okay? The lowest rated and watch videos were pro. See that though? But even then, people were hip to it. These positive and negative aspects of ITC, in turn, influence what practitioners and the broader public understand about medical countermeasures. Ooh, safety and efficacy, right? So they start talking about how this kid takes a drug because of this pandemic, right? And basically, a video goes viral of him puking. And they talk about new social media, but they also talk about old social media, such as Facebook, such as Snapchat in here, okay? And people realize they're more swayed by personal narratives about adverse effects than the science, and tend to judge disparate ideas about boop boops as equally valid, regardless of expertise. See what's happening here? They don't want you to see other people. They want a hold on this stuff. So again, you look at this, and they say they're utilizing diverse perspectives. No, they're not. Not at all. Okay, so this timeline, let's get into some of these grids. Okay? They want to single out or key decision of strategic uncertainty that has long-range consequences important to the organization. All right? What are the key drivers? Technological, economic, natural, political. See, it's all political, social, right? Distinguish inevitable trends that will play out the same no matter what versus important trends whose impacts are unsure. So figure out what you can control and how. I mean, let's just keep going. They create their characters all right. This is where we're talking about the degree of fragmentation among the populations along social, political, religious, and cultural lines, which the team felt would lead to novel communication issues. You get it? Basically, they choose an echo chamber. So this takes place 5 to 8 years, 5 to 8, because it's a 3-year pandemic, by the way. Notice that as well. We're just in year 1 of this one. Okay? And when you see what the good one is, it's UN based. These scenarios. We would have a much, much better life if we just let the UN take it over. Okay? And I really wish that people would go read this document. Obviously, you're seeing bits and pieces of it. But here it is. So, isolated communities, social fragmentation, echo chamber. Echo chamber. See, it says it right here. See, there's the UN Security Council. And by the way, they also have an emphasis on the melting pot one, and that's Singapore. And we've discussed on this show many times that Singapore seems to be being set up for like a very large role in this next level of the fourth industrial revolution and globalism in general. It's portrayed as such in Westworld. Delos? Comrades? Echo chamber. See, a technology-savvy, plugged-in, but fragmented society in which groups that hold diverse worldviews. See, diverse worldviews aren't good. Consume information that continue to validate their own positions. Now, don't get me wrong, echo chambers are horrible. We try to get out of those and listen to everybody's perspective, but when they don't have a better argument, right, then you keep going, because that's not really an echo chamber. That's you going up against adversity. But they're disguising it, okay? Allowing to live their own mental bubble. Government agencies and citizens alike have ready access to all the latest information tools. That's kind of a lie. Obviously, the government, in cahoots with big corporations, have been in a track trace database society now for how long? 30 years? 30 years easy, probably? Easily 30 years, right? Like, as soon as we had the phone lines everywhere, they were... Hepting versus AT&T. Go check it out. Solitary confinement, a society, including general population and public sector, with an uneven access to informational technology. Due to the lack of net neutrality, see, they want more regulation, uneven infrastructure that isolates differently minded communities. See, here's the good ones now. UN Security Council to the rescue. Yay. A technology-savvy, plugged-in society where diversity reigns. Yeah, okay, sure. Diversity to think what we tell you to. But differences in tolerance are socially valued. Their social credit score. You get it? And where information flows freely across different groups. They give you a utopia-like scenario. And here's the Singapore. A melting pot society with peaceful coexistence of differently minded groups, but uneven levels of access to information technology. So really, I mean, again, I'm encouraging people to read this because when we get, they choose a novel coronavirus, as I said. They give immunity, right? They give immunity to these companies that are making the vaccine. It's all right here. Okay? Let's get there. And there's the SPARS outbreak that they start talking about. All right? And they basically, let's see. I don't want to get into your revision. Here it is, the scenario. Let's see. Again, everybody's connected. Even the poorest people in the United States have access to the internet, right? And despite all this, they're still, disparate and divided. And again, that's on purpose. So they want to communicate through the CDC, etc. Here's Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, all still there. And then there's something called ZapQ. It almost feels like a Discord, the way they describe it. Okay? And they basically say that the agencies face budget constraints and they can't be in there. Look, they're saying they need more tools for propaganda throughout this whole thing and protection. It's pretty wild. And even access to all your medical information prior to a national vaccination program. Okay? So two features of this disease are important to note because this is where it's different, by the way, as the scenario plays out. It goes after kids more. You know what I'm saying? And it has, they say 7 to 10 days incubation. Think about this. They told us 14 days for this thing. They said it was going to stay on surfaces. And again, there's the asymptomatic part of this. So in a lot of ways, this does resemble what's happened to us. And it says it parallels the disease characteristics like H1N1, right? And we saw that, again, higher in children than adults and pregnant women. So they were trying to play on heartstrings here, right? So they give you this timeline, and there's excerpts later. And it goes through, and obviously it spreads because Black Friday and it's holiday travel, et cetera, et cetera. The WHO declares it a pandemic, and they start going after this Calasavir as a therapeutic, right? So we saw that remdesivir was recommended. Now it's not recommended. We saw dextromethasone was recommended. It wasn't recommended. There was talk of Regeneron before this. We don't talk about that. We know that talk about ivermectin might be bad. And certainly no one's talking about budesonide. So they cloak it. They mask it. They just act like that's going to be the disinformation. But again, they use the word doubt and misinformation. What do you mean doubt? And throughout this, it talks about the injuries that come. I mean, this is a wild document. Wild document indeed. So let's continue on. They start developing a boop, okay, that's already been in development, kind of like what we saw here. All right? But it basically didn't get licensed. Another big difference is they licensed this one in the FDA. but basically admit that there's going to be long-term side effects. So they need to protect these people from liability. Okay? So here are all the PrEP Act, okay, the emergency use authorization of the thing, the NIH working with the CDC, etc. So now, basically, this is the video of the kid vomiting after taking it, and there's an opposition to that. They start using older repurposed drugs. Again, they try to pose themselves as the saviors on this, but you know what? I must have missed it. I'm going to hit it now. Let's see if we can do this. I want to do I want to make sure everybody understands it's going to be climate change is the big thing. Let's see. Is that the second one? A climate of mistrust? That's not what we want. Climate of mistrust. Let's go to previous. It has to be previous, right? Yeah, there it is right there. We just had it. There it is. Climate change and urbanization. You know, it's the zoonotic diseases. It's the bats. It's the pangolin type thing. Yeah, I just had to make sure that we got that in, right? We've already done all this, right? Yeah, because we're in the timeline. Sorry, guys. So much here. Yes. So we're down here. And again, they bring this through the years. And lockdowns aren't really discussed, but this is more about getting into the social media networks, combating, quote unquote, doubt and misinformation, easing the public. They're worried about, hold on, let me see it, Muslims. You know, and that's important because we did that video yesterday. And they even bring up Tuskegee, you know, from several groups, alternative medicine proponents, Muslims, African Americans, and anti-boop boop activists. And again, it's social media increased their influence. Uh-oh. And again, I must have spelled that wrong. Let's just get Tusk in there. By the way, happy Easter to everybody. So yeah, they have the syphilis study. People are, again, this is all about quelling doubt. And this is all about, they also talk about neurological disorders in children. It's all here. I said I was going to spend about a half an hour on it. We did it. I encourage everybody to just look it up. You know, people complain I don't put links down below. I don't do that because it makes it harder for my stuff to even get out. You put the wrong link in there, and then all of a sudden you're associated, you're under review. Who knows? They kick you off quicker. And, that's why you can pause the video at any time. You can Google what I'm talking about. You can DuckDuckGo it. I encourage you to do so. But what I really encourage you to do is at least make that free Rockfin account. Make the free Rockfin account. Make the free Rockfin account. Make the free Rockfin account. Thumbs us up, subscribe, share. Check out all my documentary films. Shade the Motion Picture. Very important right now. Okay, very important. Please check it out. If you do want to financially support me, you're watching on YouTube. At Jason Burmis is also the Venmo. Jason is Void at Yahoo is the PayPal. The other links are down below for any kind of crypto or whatever. And Rockfin premium subscriptions are much appreciated. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the flip.